What's happening, everyone? Nick from Hospitality. Today, I'm going to be going over the best and the worst things about being a chief engineer. So when you get to this role, you know what to expect. There are a couple things in here that I think would be pretty pragmatic and easy to identify, but then there are a few things in there that, make you hesitate and are good to know before getting into this role. So to hop right into it, some of the best things are the ability to meet new people. Now, being in this role, a lot of higher level individuals from other entities seek you out and they gravitate towards you. And what do I mean by that? I mean, maybe it's the chief of police, the chief fire marshal will come knocking on your door, wanting to meet with you, wanting to schedule meetings. You get a lot of different exposure. You're now on the executive committee, so you get access to things that you wouldn't normally have, and they're just higher quality thinkers, which I really appreciate. Which leads into the next thing, is that you now are solving higher quality problems. And in this industry, problems are never going to go away, and you're certainly going to have to balance between being a first responder and then the leader of the department. And what's great about it is you're no longer having to be the person, the boots on the ground as much, and you're now being behind the scenes and focusing on capital expenditure. How are you going to develop and initiate new programs? You get to meet with your controller of the property, and you're really solving bigger problems on a 30,000 foot level and then figuring out a way how you're going to implement them. So it gets really creative, especially when you're presented with other problems. So now you're no longer doing the repair work, but you're figuring out how you're going to present it to perhaps an HOA board or your executive committee, or you're going to have to give a presentation and justify it and develop return on investments. So I think it's a lot of fun being able to solve higher level problems like that. The next I would say is meetings and presentations. Sure, there are times where you're going to have scheduled meetings that is very taxing, but as a whole, I think it's really great to be able to be the representative for your department in these meetings and be able to give presentations on behalf of them. There's nothing better than being able to highlight and showcase the skills of your team and give credit to them. I think it's so meaningful when you're up there giving a presentation on your department and being the biggest ambassador and advocate for it, and then being able to say the reason you've had your success is because of these specific people. So being able to kind of reciprocate the hard work that they're putting out for you, that you now get to reward them by recognizing them, that's something that's really, really great. The next, I would say, next best thing would be the ability to hire people. You are the final say most of the time. Now, being able to select people and handpick them is great, because you get to sit down on them, you get to ask them the questions that are important to you, to your department, because you're responsible for creating the culture. And I think that is one thing that's really stood out to me, was being able to select who I wanted to work with me on my team and handpick those individuals. You were no longer inheriting someone, or if you were on the tech side of things, all of a sudden you have a new person on the team and you don't know if they're going to assimilate to your department, if they have the same beliefs. This way you can really vet them the way you want and ensure that they're going to be a good fit. The next best thing is you are also the final say on things. So if you're doing repair work, if you're doing a program, if you are if an employee comes to you with a question or just other general issues, the answer is up to you. So whether you want to do something or not, for the most part, again, you might have some executive committee members that you need to bounce a few things off, but I would say 80 to 85% of the decisions throughout the day were made by me, and it's up to you. So you get to run your department. I think that there's some autonomy, which is fantastic. I was really fortunate to work with some leaders that empowered me and allowed me the freedom to make the decisions that I needed to in our department, which really created a great dynamic and just fostered a great culture. So I was really fortunate for that, and I hope that same is true as for you. The next, one of the best things about being the chief, years ago, I made the decision to hire some J1 students. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, J1s are people from other countries that come here on a work visa, and they're able to be a part of your team. The best learning experience I ever had was working with these people. Now, I got to work with people from South America to Serbia and everywhere in between. And it was just unbelievably fascinating to work with students from all walks of life and really understand their work ethic and habits. And I'll tell you, the thing I took away from it was it made me feel lazy at times, because here you have these students that were able to come work for you, and they were working 2, 3 jobs. And they didn't know the language that well, but they were here to work their butt off and save money and just show up and do the job. Sure, you had a couple bad eggs, but that's life. But as a whole, I would say 90% of the experience was just so worthwhile. And out of everything that stood out for me so far in my career, being able to work with people from other countries and being able to experience their culture has been something that has been fantastic. Again, where else are you going to get an opportunity to work with? On one team, we had Serbia, South America, Romania, Macedonia, Turkey, and then we also had some people from Germany. I mean, it was just, everything was just so cool to have a team that was just full of every different experience, every different culture. You got to experience everything from their language to their food to their mannerisms, and it really taught me a lot, and it taught our team a lot. So here you get this world culture into one dynamic. Really, really a great thing. Okay, so moving on to some of the worst things. The worst thing I have is, number one, your phone will never stop ringing, or the text will never stop coming. From 7 in the morning till 6:59 in the morning, right? You have 23 hours and 59 minutes of everything. You have maybe 1 to 2 minutes of spare time. No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, it is somewhat of an anxiety issue. You go on your weekends, you go out to your events, your phone blows up, especially if you have a big team, and sometimes you're fielding some nuisance calls, some low-level issues, and sometimes you're out to dinner with your family, and you get a text and says, hey, we have a leak in this area, and you either have to go outside, take a 20-minute phone call, or perhaps even worse, you're in the middle of a movie, and you get a call saying, hey, we got a flood going on, and you need to leave. So that is something that it kind of comes with the territory. It's a little bit stressful to deal with because, again, there is no off time. You don't have that luxury anymore, especially if you're managing a big team. Even if you're not, you're still the person that's on call 24 hours a day, which can be a challenge. Number two, one of the worst things, sometimes you become jealous of the team. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, because your phone rings all the time, the talent gets to go home at the end of the night. You're the coach, you're developing the plays, you're reviewing the plays, you're developing the schedules, you're making sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing, you're the one taking the feedback, you're the one adjusting fire as needed, and it can be very tiresome. And there were times where you just sit by the time clock and 5 o'clock would roll around and you'd see people that were on their scheduled shift and they'd say, see you later, I'm out of here. They completed their workloads for the day. So the talent got to go home. You never get to go home. Number three, one of the worst things. When people fail, you take it personally. It is so hard when you have someone on your team that is underperforming, that you're genuinely trying to coach, help, mentor, and for whatever reason they're not succeeding. It's painful, and you feel disappointed. I would feel personally disappointed that I wasn't able to get this person to succeed for whatever reason. Maybe they weren't taking initiative, they got burned out, they had a bad experience with someone else on the team, maybe a different department. Regardless of the situation, you just couldn't get that person to perform where you needed them to, and it was really, really challenging because you invested a lot in them and you want them to succeed. I think the sign of a leader is when people grow and they grow into another position, or they're offered another position either within your company or outside of your company. I never felt bad when someone came to me and said, hey Nick, I just got offered another position that pays significantly amount more because of the skills that I was able to learn here. I always felt sad that they were leaving, but happy that they were doing more for their family and bettering themselves. So, which leads me to the next worst thing, firing people. Firing people, it never gets easy. It's never fun. It's not something I ever enjoyed because, again, you just have this feeling of disappointment. Whether the person is sleeping on the job, showing up to work drunk, you empathize with them to some degree because your heart goes out. You wish that they wouldn't behave like that. I've had some really talented people, really great people, just make poor decisions, and that costs them their jobs. And it's heart-wrenching to have these conversations with your techs when you say, someone else sent me a picture of you asleep. Someone else said that you smelled like alcohol. We did a breathalyzer on them, and of course, they blew well past even the legal limit. And you're sitting there going, "This is a zero tolerance policy, and here it is at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're drunk." And it's painful because they're qualified, talented people, and you don't like to see people fail, especially as the leader of the department. Because again, not only do you take it personal, but it doesn't feel good to watch somebody else go through pain. And there are times where you have to go through a lot of it, because in this industry, you unfortunately have to kiss a lot of frogs to find those perfect people that are going to mesh well with your team, that are going to show up on time, have all the attributes you're looking for, and that are going to be in it for the long run. The last thing you want is a revolving door in your department, which is negative on your culture. It's negative for your productivity. It's just bad all around. So that would probably be the worst. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill the mood there, but that does not feel good. I know I'm smiling, but I'm just trying to change the mood here. So those are the best and the worst things that I believe I experienced as a chief engineer, and I'm curious to know your comments. If you are watching this, I would really appreciate any support that you have on the channel. It's something that I'm really looking to grow because I want to genuinely help others in the industry, whether you're an entry-level tech or a director of engineering. My goal is to share insights through this channel that are bettering the community, that are helping educate and give people exposure and an understanding to things that they might not have wherever they're working. So if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. I'm going to keep putting out more. Make some comments. I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are and if there's anything else that you'd be interested in hearing. So thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great day.